Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to Ottawa South. It's such a pleasure to be here in my riding of Ottawa South, surrounded by community partners, builders and leaders who share a vision for a stronger, more connected Canada. Because when we invest in our communities, we invest in people, we create good jobs, make life more affordable, and lay the foundation for long-term growth and opportunity. C'est exactement ce que le budget de cette année vise à faire. Soutenir les familles, stimuler la croissance et bâtir un avenir plus juste et plus durable pour tous les Canadiens. Et c'est grâce à un leadership clair, axé sur les résultats, que notre pays continue d'aller de l'avant. Alors c'est avec une grande fierté que je vous présente le Premier ministre du Canada et député de Nepean, le très honorable. It's with great pleasure, great pride that I introduce the Prime Minister of Canada and the MP for the riding of Nepean, the Right Honourable Mark Carney.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. I want to thank my colleagues from the National Capital Region for joining me, and I would especially like to thank Chris D'Entremont, the Member for Parliament for Acadie, Annapolis. I'm honoured to welcome him as the newest member of our government caucus. Chris est un leader de sa communauté et un parlementaire dévoué, des qualités qu'il a notamment démontrées quand il était président adjoint de la Chambre des communes. Chris, ton engagement à bâtir l'avenir du Canada contribuera grandement à la mission du gouvernement en ce moment crucial pour notre pays. I will repeat that. Chris's decision to join the government caucus at this crucial moment for our country is exceptionally valuable and important. C'est un plaisir pour moi et nos collègues d'être ici au dépôt Albion, un endroit où des ingénieurs, des soudeurs et des machinistes unissent leurs compétences pour construire des infrastructures qui durent. You know, I said a moment ago about what a crucial time this is, and you know, over history of nations, they're punctuated by hinge moments, times when the future hangs in the balance and when our actions must be decisive. Canada is facing one of these moments right now. Technological change is accelerating, the world is more divided and dangerous, and the global trading system is literally being rewired, threatening jobs and businesses under a cloud of uncertainty. These profound changes demand a bold response, and that's what we got yesterday. Canada's new government tabled our first budget. We presented a clear picture of what's happening to our economy and what's being taken from us. It's estimated, you'll find in the budget, it's estimated that U.S. tariffs and the uncertainty that they're creating will cost us around 1.8% of our GDP. Let me translate that. That's about $50 billion lost from our economy, or the equivalent of $1,300 for every Canadian. Now, while we can't control what the U.S. does, we can decide what happens here. This is Canada, and we can build the future we want for ourselves. We can get that money back and more. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Ce sont les Canadiens qui vont décider ce qui se passe ici. C'est notre pays, c'est votre avenir. Nous allons vous le redonner. Le budget de 2000... Bienvenue, Monsieur Fanjoy. Vous étiez à notre réunion avec le maire, oui. Il travaille tout le temps. Ça, c'est l'idée, c'est nécessaire. Le budget de 2025 est notre nouvelle stratégie économique pour répondre aux défis actuels et en sortir plus fort. Un plan qui s'appuie sur nos forces, nos valeurs et notre histoire d'aventureux, des preneurs de risques et de bâtisseurs. Un plan pour un Canada confiant qui reprend le contrôle de son avenir en catalysant des investissements générationnels afin de protéger nos communautés, nos frontières et notre mode de vie. Bâtir une économie plus forte où chacun a la chance de progresser. Donner aux Canadiens de nouvelles possibilités, de meilleures carrières et un coût de la vie plus abordable. Budget 2025 is a bold strategy to unleash over $1 trillion in total investment in Canada over the next 5 years. That alone can increase our GDP by over 3.5%. Again, let me translate. That's equivalent to more than $3,500 for every Canadian, delivering far more for Canadians than what's been taken from us from abroad. Now is not the time to be cautious because fortune favors the bold. It is a time to get big things done for Canadians and get them done fast. So we're building one Canadian economy, turbocharged by new infrastructure that connects our regions, that diversifies our trading markets, infrastructure that makes us an energy superpower in clean and conventional energy, new infrastructure that restores affordability to housing and secures our borders and our communities while creating literally hundreds of thousands of high-paying careers from the skilled trades to advanced technology. And the budget will make these generational investments while maintaining Canada's strong fiscal advantage by taking responsible, pragmatic choices. We're changing how government works, spending less on government operations so Canadians can invest more in our future. We're making government much more productive by right-sizing, cutting red tape and wasteful spending, and adopting AI at scale. All of this so that Canadians can count on their government to be more efficient in delivering the services that matter to you. We're slowing growth in direct program spending from 8% to under 1%. We will balance our operational budget over the next 3 years, and we will maintain the strongest balance sheet in the G7. Building the future we want starts with building the communities that we want. And some of the biggest investments in Budget 2025 are in local infrastructure, including through a new $50 billion Build Communities Strong Fund. Nous allons moderniser les collèges et les universités pour que les travailleurs et les talents canadiens puissent obtenir l'éducation leur permette d'occuper les emplois dont ce pays aura le plus besoin. Nous allons investir dans de nouvelles écoles de médecins afin de remédier à la pénurie nationale de médecins et d'infirmières et afin d'offrir aux Canadiens les soins dont ils ont besoin. We'll build new roads and bridges so you can get to where you want to go more easily, and our products can move more quickly. And we will modernize our buses and trains that connect our communities, like the O-trains right behind me. We'll provide federal funding to help build and revitalize Canada's hospitals so you can get the care that you need. In too many of our communities, the hospitals were built in the 1970s, and they're now serving twice the population they were designed for. So we're going to deploy $5 billion to build more emergency departments and new urgent care centers, and to procure modern equipment so doctors and nurses can deliver care faster and better. Nous investirons le capital public limité de façon à créer de la certitude et à attirer des investissements privés partout au pays. Les fonds bâtir des communautés fortes comblera le déficit d'infrastructure du Canada et contribuera à rebâtir notre productivité. Nous travaillerons avec les provinces et les territoires de manière à stimuler davantage d'investissements, en égalant les fonds ou en éliminant certains frais de développement. Si un gouvernement local facilite la construction de logements plus rapidement, notre gouvernement l'aidera à en construire encore davantage. C'est comme ça que les incentives doivent fonctionner. Tous les ordres de gouvernement qui tirent dans la même direction vers le même objectif. With Build Canada Homes, we're turbocharging housing construction and mainstreaming advanced methods of construction, with the potential to cut building timelines by 50%, reduce cost by 20%, and lower emissions by 20%. In this way, as we build millions of more affordable homes for Canadians, Canada can become a global leader in new construction techniques, sustainable materials, and advanced manufacturing. You see, Budget 2025 is not only about what we build, but also about how we build. We are building sustainably with low-carbon investments that will make Canada more competitive. We are building in solidarity with workers, creating good union jobs across the skilled trades. And we're building inclusively, in full partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. And above all, we are building Canadian, with Canadian workers using Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian expertise. Un seul projet peut générer des commandes d'acier à Hamilton, de béton à Calgary et de location d'équipements lourds à Laval. La modernisation du réseau d'eau à Moncton crée du travail pour les équipes locales d'excavation et les fabricants de conduits. When provinces and municipalities start designing new water plants, roads, hospitals, they create contracts for construction companies, engineers, equipment suppliers, electricians, plumbers, project managers. And each of those contracts supports dozens of subcontracts, from trucking, surveying, fabrication, IT. The entire ecosystem of small and medium-sized businesses that make up Canada's industrial base. So the short-term effect of those projects is thousands of good jobs in construction, the trades, and logistics. The longer-term effect is high-paying, fulfilling careers with recurring contracts year after year. And that is what $1 trillion of investment builds. We will build Canada strong with projects that build our communities strong. By investing in the Bob Macquarie Recreation Complex in Laura Orleans, a space that Marie-France Lalonde rightly advocated for, we will build Orleans strong. Or back in Edmonton, where I grew up, by investing in the Bissell Centre, focused on reducing homelessness there, we will build Edmonton strong. By investing in the TMU Medical School, we will help doctors and nurses train and build Brampton strong. Avec le chantier naval Follion, nous bâtissons une Gaspésie forte. You know, Canada's strength wasn't built in the halls of Parliament. It was built in our communities, built by workers who poured concrete and weld steel, by innovators who push boundaries of discovery, inventing technologies that create our future, and by veterans who enroll in colleges and start their own businesses, serving their town after defending our country, and the doctors, the nurses, and the scientists who save lives, but too often have had to do more with less. Le budget de 2025 redonne le pouvoir aux communautés pour que nous puissions construire plus grand, plus vite et plus qu'auparavant. Un plan qui crée des bonnes conditions pour bâtir ici, chez nous, avec des communautés plus fortes et bienveillantes. Parce que nous sommes Canadiens, nous prenons aussi soin les unes des autres et nous veillons les unes sur les autres. Avec le budget nous préservons nos programmes sociaux, y compris les services de garde, les soins dentaires et les repas scolaires. Nous allons préserver nos transferts en santé, en éducation et en programmes sociaux aux provinces. Et nous allons préserver des soutiens essentiels, comme les crédits d'impôt pour les personnes en situation de handicap. This budget protects the essential programs that give every Canadian a fair chance to get ahead, including childcare, dental care, pharmacare, as well as federal health care, education, and social transfers to the provinces. Friends, the work ahead won't always be easy because the challenges we face are not small. But in this moment of great change and deep uncertainty, we have a choice. We can retreat, slash the deficit, hope for the best, wait and see if the trickle-down ever comes. That will gut the support to the most vulnerable Canadians just when they need that support the most. And it won't grow our economy. Our other alternative is to advance. We can empower Canadians and build this country bigger and bolder than ever before. We can move from reliance on one partner to resilience, to global shocks. We can move from uncertainty to prosperity. We can be masters in our own home and look out for everyone in it. We choose Canada. We choose to invest in Canada and for all Canadians, because this is our country. This is your future. With Budget 2025, we are taking back control to build Canada strong. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin the question portion of the press conference. On va maintenant commencer les questions. Première question, Jillian.
Hi, Prime Minister. Jillian Piper with Global News.
Hi.
How many Conservatives has your caucus approached about joining the Liberal Party?
Well, I'd say the following. First, I want to underscore what I said at the start, how much I admire Chris D'Entremont, appreciate his joining the government caucus at this crucial time for our country. And I think that's the point to all MPs, wherever they're sitting in the House. This is a time where we need to act as a country, be as unified as possible, to act boldly, and to invest in the future of Canada. That's what this budget does, and we'll speak to anyone, publicly or otherwise, that can support us. En français, c'est un moment, nous sommes à un point tournant pour notre pays et nous avons un budget, une approche qui a l'audace nécessaire pour bâtir notre économie, pour rendre la confiance aux Canadiens et Canadiennes. Et le gouvernement va discuter avec n'importe quel député dans ces circonstances. C'est le moment d'agir comme un pays unifié. Merci.
How personally involved have you been in the floor crossing discussions?
The first and foremost, I'm going to go back to what I just said, which is that we put forward to the House a plan that meets the moment, that manages the federal finances in a prudent, responsible, pragmatic way, gets spending down, and creates this prospect of investment on a scale that we haven't seen for generations, investment that will more than give us back what the Americans are taking away with the tariffs and the uncertainty. And I'll have conversations with anyone within our party. I would say as well, what you see in this budget very much reflects the input from our caucus on what our priorities should be. I gave one example. I could give very many. I'll also speak to members deputies throughout the House. Mr. D'Entremont and I had discussion in advance of his decision, as was appropriate, because he wanted, I'm going to speak for you, and you'll have a chance to speak to him afterwards, but if I may, I think he wanted to test what we were going to do in the budget and the scope of what's required, and to see that there was the alignment. And you can see that there is that alignment. And as I'll just reinforce, this is a time for us to come together as much as possible in the interests of our country.
Next question, Mike.
Hi, Prime Minister Mike Lucatero with CTV News. You mentioned it just 2 seconds ago. Do you think I could ask a question of Mr. D'Entremont?
We'll arrange. Can I finish my press conference, and then we'll have the more interesting press conference after.
This is equally
I'm the
interesting,
warm up.
In the same vein, though, how open are you to negotiations with other parties over this budget, or is it take it or leave it?
Well, look, there were differing degrees of input which we received from the various opposition parties, and I think there's a lot in this budget. I know, in fact, that there's a lot in this budget that reflects the input from those parties, from specific projects to certain programs and reinvestment in them. And so those parties are aware, and you know, part of this is a process of digesting the budget as well.
Specific on what was in there from other parties?
Well, I mean, it's more a question for the other parties, but I'm aware. Look, in many cases, there's again an alignment in terms of what their priorities are, and what the government's were. Let's see.
Good morning, Bill Curry from the Globe and Mail. Desjardins Economics, their budget reaction was that it was more of the same and a missed opportunity. Others in the business community were similarly underwhelmed in their reaction. Do you think you might have overhyped this budget?
Look, this budget is a sea change in the approach for the government. Let me give you a couple of elements of that. First, just on the spending side, that shift from 8% spending growth, which has been the case year after year, that's the average for the last decade. We're shifting on a go-forward basis to less than 1% spending, operational spending, first point. Secondly, the scale of investment that has not been seen full stop, okay? And the fact that we're catalyzing on a cash basis more than $400 billion of investment through the budget process itself. So that includes direct investment. So, for example, what we're talking about today, infrastructure money that might go to a different level of government and be invested directly, or very important, I would think unprecedented, changes to the tax system to incentivize business investment, the productivity super deduction, which is there, which can be stacked alongside investment tax credits, which are confirmed and extended across a whole suite of clean energy. That catalyzes the broader investment. So you have a change in terms of how we're managing our spending, orders of magnitude change in the speed of, or in the control of spending that's there. You have a change in the scale of investment that's being put in place, not just by the federal government, but it's being catalyzed elsewhere, and creates a level of growth, which we prudently do not account for. Right? We prudently do not account. We don't adjust the forecast for that, the payback from that investment, and payback there will be. We're gonna realize that over time. So it's look, I've been around a lot of budgets. This is a very different budget. I have a different view than the way you depicted it.
Next question.
Prime Minister.
You know, I'm going to add one other thing. I'm going to add one other thing just while I'm on it, which is, if you look at the effective tax rate on investment for Canada, it is the lowest in the G7. It is 3 percentage points lower in the United States, and that is after the much vaunted one big beautiful bill. This is the country to invest in. Thank you.
Hi, Prime Minister. Tom Perry, CBC.
Yeah.
I know you're willing to talk to anyone, but I'm wondering, are you or any members of your team actually in conversations with other members of the opposition to try to get them to join the
I'm
government?
in conversation with you right now, so I can't be talking to anyone else. But the Parliament works well. I'm new to Parliament. My view is always I will talk to anyone. It's part of our job is to talk to each other. You get ideas. You learn a lot when you're listening more than you're talking. So we seek out different opinions. I do that. I do that with the premiers. I do it with other members of Parliament. We'll continue to do that.
Can I ask you then, on conversations? What's the current state of, your communication with the U.S. President in terms of reviving trade talks?
We'll see. The talks are not yet revived. I last spoke to the U.S. President a few days ago in Asia. C'est la même situation avec les Américaines et la dernière fois que j'ai eu une conversation avec le président des États-Unis, c'était en Asie. On a fait un petit échange en ce qui concerne la série mondiale.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Yasmine Média avec Radio-Canada. Avez-vous fait des promesses à M. d'Entremont? Lui avez-vous offert un poste de ministre, par exemple?
Non, absolument pas. C'était juste comme il apparaît. C'est un moment acharné pour notre pays et nous sommes d'accord avec l'approche. Vous pouvez poser la question évidemment à lui, mais c'est seulement une question quelles sont les meilleures politiques pour le Canada à ce moment ici.
Oui ou non, est-ce que vous avez rencontré personnellement d'autres députés de l'opposition?
Je vois d'autres députés tout le temps.
Il
y en a plusieurs. J'ai eu des conversations, plusieurs conversations. Je suis un membre de la Chambre de communes. Ça, c'est le job. C'est le nombre de parlements. Il faut parler au Parlement.
Est-ce que le prétexte, c'est d'avoir une majorité avant Noël?
Ça vaut mieux pour le Canada d'avoir une majorité pour ce budget.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Good morning.
Morning, Greg.
The Liberals writ large have run deficits for a decade now. This is also one of the largest deficits outside of COVID. Is there a philosophy behind this? Are you into modern monetary theory?
Oh,
Are you a Keynesian?
Come on, Greg, you know better than to
How
throw
can
these
Canadians be
insults.
presented with continuing budget deficits with no plan to balance?
That's pas du tout. Okay. All right. First, we have the best balance sheet in the G7. We have one of the best in the OECD, so the 30 countries of the OECD. We have the second lowest deficit in the G7. We have one of the lowest deficits in the OECD. That continues to be the case over the forecast period. That's the first point. The second is the philosophy, the approach. As I think you know, or you would know from reading the first page of the budget, is that we are getting spending under control, slowing spending from 8% growth, which had been the case for the last decade, to less than 1%, so less than the rate of growth of the economy, by eliminating duplication, eliminating waste, cutting red tape, making the public service more productive, giving them new tools and making it more productive so that Canadians get not just the same service but better service with less. So we're doing that over the course. That's new. And any deficit financing is for the investment that is going to grow this economy. And that's the amount that leads to that $1 trillion of overall investment, which is worth, in the estimation of, well, half of that, candidly. It's only the estimate I gave you, the $3,500 per head for every Canadian, is based on only half of that amount. You'll find that in the budget documents. Hopefully you were in the lockup for several hours and you had time to read it. So that's the approach. And that's a different approach. It's an approach that grows the economy. And let's be clear where we are. We're in a situation where the change in U.S. tariffs, where the uncertainty caused by all the changes in the world and all the pressures in the world are holding our economy back. We choose to move forward. We choose Canada. We choose with confidence to invest in Canada. And that's what is going to bring us the prosperity that Canadians deserve. Let's see.
Next question. Nick.
Morning, Prime Minister.
Morning.
Murray from Canadian Press. The budget is being billed as one to provide investor certainty, and yet the removal of the emissions cap seems to be contingent on a strong industrial carbon price, scaling up of CCUS, and the reinforcement of the methane regulations, which of course industry has also called on Ottawa to repeal. So my question is, in the context of investor certainty, is Cabinet directing ECCC to continue its work on the emissions cap to track for 2030? And if not, what's the trigger point for ECCC to cease their work, again, to give industry that certainty?
Two things. First, Greg, are you bringing your daughter to work today? That's very good. Very good. Very good. It's a noble profession your father is in. And I would like to add everyone on our side, particularly the hardworking men and women behind me. So I'll answer your question, but welcome. Thanks for coming. What we've outlined in the budget is, and this is a basic approach that the government is entirely united behind. We're focused on results, and the results are to get emissions down, to make all our businesses more competitive. The O train helps get emissions down in Ottawa for commute. The work of Gregor Robertson, the Minister of Infrastructure and Housing in Build Canada Homes, helps get emissions down. People will have houses that are more efficient. They're cheaper to run. They'll have lower emissions. They'll have lower emissions when they're built. That all helps. So we've got an overall approach that's looking at getting emissions down. And then when we look to your specific question, when we look at the oil and gas sector, it's how do we get emissions down in the production of conventional oil and gas. And there's several things that can be done there. Partly it's the methane regulations, as noted in the budget, which are moving forward. Partly it's deployment of at large scale carbon capture and storage as well. There's other factors that can come in here, but it's those investments, those steps that get the emissions down. And as they move forward, then the emissions cap becomes less relevant. Yeah, becomes less relevant. We explicitly say that in the budget, but that depends on having those measures in place and people moving forward on that.
Right. So I'll ask again then: is the cabinet directing ECCC to continue its work?
The cabinet doesn't direct.
Well,
cabinets
okay,
don't direct departments.
Is ECCC continuing to work towards tracking for 2030 on the emissions cap?
We're working on we have a strategy, a climate competitiveness strategy, which. The broad strokes are outlined in the budget. You'll see more from the Minister of Environment and Climate Change in the coming weeks on that. And the strategy is focused on getting emissions down, making Canadian businesses more competitive, saving Canadians money. Merci. Sur quel aspect, pardon?
La cible est-elle pour 2030 ou est-ce qu'on abandonne?
On ne l'abandonne pas. Le cible, ouais.
Next question.
Hey,
Marco.
Mr. Prime Minister, Marco Vigliati, iPolitics. I wanted to kind of follow up on a similar vein to this question. Around the industrial carbon pricing, there was some language in there that admittedly I'm a bit confused about. I'm hoping, considering this is kind of in your tool, your sandbox, you can help me out here. There's some vague reference to how we're going to consult with the provinces and territories about strengthening the industrial carbon price, specifically around when the federal backstop goes in place.
Yep.
We've seen those changes around a consumer carbon price, getting it down to the price of zero, effectively killing it. Are we going to see something similar? What assurances can you give to? What assurances can you give to Canadians, to members of your own caucus, that these changes, that these consultations with the provinces and territories won't lead to an immense weakening of the industrial carbon price?
The assurance is in the budget where we talk about strengthening the industrial carbon price and strengthening the backstop. And there's various ways to do that. And as you probably know, is that different provinces have different carbon pricing approaches, different carbon markets in some cases. In some cases, those markets, for example, are very liberal, if I can use the term, in their credits that are provided, and so the effective carbon price, there's a big gap between the effective carbon price and the backstop price. There's ways to work on that. And we believe in cooperative federalism, so we don't just say by fiat this is what you're going to do. We work with the provinces in order to, as I say, to tighten the system.
Can I just get clarity on one other thing? I think during the campaign, maybe during the leadership campaign, there was talk about a carbon border adjustment mechanism. I didn't see that in the budget. Maybe I missed it. Is this still something that you're pursuing?
Look, the issues around carbon CBAM. First thing. The carbon border adjustment mechanism, pardon me, the fact that we have an industrial carbon price will provide us market access for countries or jurisdictions, the European Union being the obvious one, that put in place a carbon border adjustment mechanism. So it is important There's lots of reasons why it's important to have an industrial carbon price, but one of the reasons why it's important is for market access. And if we are diversifying, as we need to do, if we've taken one lesson from the experience of this year, it's that we need to diversify our markets abroad. It's an important component. There's a question whether we put in place a carbon border adjustment mechanism. It's something we're looking at, but it wasn't a budget initiative to do that. Thank you.
Last question, dernière question. Ian?
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. Ian Ostrom from the New York Times. On the $1 trillion, most of that's going to come from the private sector, right, ultimately?
Well, the calculation of that is actually all from the private sector. So it I would say that it underweights the actual economic impact because there is a considerable amount of public investment as well.
So my question is, Canada, as I don't need to tell you, is in competition for capital with the rest of the world. Tax is a consideration, but how do you persuade investors to invest into a country where the forecast at the moment is for decline rather than growth?
Well, Ian, I'm sorry to correct you. The forecast is for growth. The forecast of the IMF, which came out literally weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, is that Canada will grow the second fastest rate in the G7 after the United States. So now, it's not growing under that forecast at a rate that we're satisfied with, or I think Canadians would be satisfied with. So it's not decline, it's growth. First point. Well, it's an important distinction. The second thing is that what we need in this circumstance is you do need several things. One, you need tax. Tax needs to be competitive. We are more than competitive. The marginal tax rate, the effective tax rate on new investment in Canada, that rate is much lower. So if you're actually investing in the future, the rate is much lower in Canada than it is in the United States. And in this budget, we made it lower still. Super productivity deduction is one of the major initiatives, which probably hasn't had the attention that it should. Investment tax credits for clean energy, the earlier questions around climate competitiveness, absolutely right, because that also goes on top of that, adds to the tax competitiveness there. As well, you need greater certainty about the speed with which regulatory decisions are going to be taken. The One Canadian Economy Act, the Build Canada Act, provides greater certainty for those large projects that help unlock broader investment, so we're providing that. And you need a country that's confident, that knows where it's going, a country that knows it's going to build millions more homes, a country that knows it's going to build community infrastructure from recreation centers in Orleans to new hospitals in Metro Toronto or in Quebec, that is building the kind of energy infrastructure that keeps our emissions down, makes us more competitive, building the infrastructure that unlocks one of the world's great resources of critical minerals and rare earths. You know, in this budget, we're put in place a $2 billion sovereign fund for critical minerals. Let me put that in context, since you're the New York Times. That is as big as what the United States and Australia put together with deserved fanfare, a big announcement in the Oval Office a few weeks ago. We're doing the same again, and we're doing it right here because we have the minerals right here in Canada. So I could go on, but I think some of your colleagues are interested in speaking to my new colleague, Monsieur d'Entremont. So the point is, all of that helps create it. I guess the other point I would say, and I'll finish on this, there is tremendous interest internationally in what's going on in Canada. I was in Asia, major sovereign wealth funds there, major investors are very interested in coming here. Investors in the Gulf, same thing, investors in Europe, investors more broadly. And that's on top of the fact that we have more than $2 trillion of institutional capital in this country, and the pension funds, who make their own decisions on how they're going to invest, but we're creating a better investment environment for them.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you very much.
Président de presse conference, c'est ce qui m'a fait à notre conférence de presse. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. All right. There you go.